Hello, you all. I'm so excited to be in this conversation with you. I've been looking forward to it all week. So, thank you for joining in, and I think it's going to be a great conversation. I'm really excited about our topic. And since we all know why we're here and what we came to talk about, but we're recording this and we have people that will be watching this video at some point in the future, who knows when. So, I'd like us to give an intro to who we are, and then hopefully we can just chit chat with each other and talk and just make it a conversation that seems like it's just us here talking. But are you all good with introducing yourselves? Yeah. I was thinking to say who you are and your type and how long you've been studying objective personality, if you're comfortable with that. So, Joyce, will you start?
Sure. My name is Joyce Meng. My type is FFNITI, Sleep, Consume, Play, Blast. And I've been studying OP for around 8-9 months. But I have feminine sensory, so that might be wrong.
Right.
Oh, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Kevin.
You want me to go next? Okay. I'm Kevin. My type is MFNIFE, Blast, Play, Consume, Sleep. I got into objective personality last year. I'm not sure exactly what date. And went through most of the videos on YouTube and then joined the class in like February of this year. So.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm Claire. My type is double feminine, SIFE, Blast, Sleep, Consume, Play. And I've been in the class a little over a year. I was typed last May.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I'm Karen, and I was typed double feminine, NIFE, Blast, Sleep, Consume, Play, Last, the same stack as Claire has. And I've been studying OP for nearly 2 years now, fall of 2018. So, yeah, so great. Okay, so we all have in common double decider, we have organize over gather, and we are on the feminine FE, masculine TI axis. And that was by design. That's we wanted to get that commonality together. And it would have, unfortunately, it would have been great to have had a few more males in this discussion for the discussion that I wanted to kick off having. Due to scheduling and all that, it wasn't possible. So hopefully a conversation like that could still go on in the future with if some of you gentlemen actually can want to make a conversation like that. But Kevin, something you posted last week, I think it was
last week,
was what prompted the inspiration to have this conversation. So I was wondering if you could give us a little refresher on what that was.
Yeah, sure. I made a video. I've struggled with trying to take my experience of feminine FE, and I'm comparing it all the time to everybody on Facebook and how they discuss what that's like and what it should look like. I guess Savior FE mostly. And there's like been this disconnect where they'll list all these things that they think about it. And I'm like, well, I don't have any of those things. So I don't really understand what's going on. So I made a video just talking about that, my frustration of, my experience and what it sounds like it's supposed to be and how I can't make it make sense. Yeah. And then I posted it and you guys watched it, I guess. And
yeah.
We had a nice conversation going there in the comments. So
it was a good conversation. And it was, your experience was interesting to me in that it was a story behind something I've been noticing for a while now, among just observing people in the OP community. I mean, we're talking about mainly our Facebook groups that we're all part of. And observing that many of the males who have been typed with feminine FE savior, they, in my opinion, many of you tend to lean more heavily into that masculine TI. And to the point to where even after you've received your type from Dave and Shan, to me it's still I don't disagree with their typing, but it still looks like a strong function, strong enough to be a savior, or that it's relied upon enough to be a savior. And you all, I find that you all tend to be tricky to type when we have the chance, those of us in the class that have a chance to type along with Dave and Shan, that many of us do not get that feminine FE savior. We don't get this FE savior at all. Mm-hmm. And so it's tricky from a type perspective or a typing perspective. And then interestingly, many of you have your pre-type was TI, a savior TI. And so there seems to be something going on there, and I wanted to explore what it is. And so that's why we're here in this conversation. But we also, there were people in the OP community that were kind enough to submit some questions to us. And so hopefully we have time to get to a number of those before we close out. So that's the idea. And I was just thinking, one of the first points that we had talked about discussing is how each one of us relates to what's described about Savior Feminine FE, and just noting that Joyce actually has the other side of that coin there, having the Savior Masculine TI, but being female. So it's an interesting perspective to have in the middle of this discussion here. So I don't know, if any of you feel inspired to jump in and give thoughts of how you relate to that decider savior function, please do.
I could say something, I guess, first. Could I like read we have the definitions that Dave and Shan have?
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
For
Mm-hmm.
FE. For FE, they have prioritizes the spectrum of the tribe's values, then seeks their personal reasons.
Uh-huh.
And then for feminine, they have movable with the tribe, direct on identity. So, and what I would say about the FE part of that, I would change it from prioritizes. For me personally, I have an awareness of the spectrum of tribe values precedes my awareness of my own personal reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not prioritizing the tribe's values over my own reasons. I'm just aware of them first, and then I instantly see my own side of it, the TI side. So like I'm seeing the FE first, but then instantly I look and check the TI side. I'm like, okay, that's what they want, and that's their values. What do I want? So I'm constantly like back and forth. The tribe wants this, do I want that? Yeah.
Okay, so let me just look at this again. Okay, so because they actually do, and this is a current definition that was pulled off of their website, I think, just in the last few days. So yeah, they actually do say prioritizes the spectrum of the tribe's values, then seeks their personal reasons.
It's the prioritizes that I have a problem with.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because I'm the opposite of you. I actually think I do prioritize the spectrum of values of other people to the point where I might give up my own reasons for that, for the values of other people. Yeah. And so I'm also a female too, so I relate more to that FE.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Oh, interesting.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I relate to what you're saying, Kevin.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, just it proceeding.
Yeah.
You know.
Like I see the double deciding all the time. I'm constantly checking the TI. Like, is this something I want? Do I have reasons why I would do this or not do this? It's like effortless to go back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, because I'm sensory, I like examples, you know? So like, I think about this a lot, like in the realm of parenting, because that's what I'm doing right now. You know, like I might know and be aware of what other people value, but I really know what I think I want to do. And that feels like it rules me, but the awareness is there.
Definitely.
Of the tribe's values. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sometimes I feel selfish because I go to my TI more. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that thing that the tribe wants me to do. I want to do my thing.
Yeah.
Screw the tribe, So
Yeah.
Well, is it possible that they're, and maybe they've even said this before and I haven't remembered it, but is it possible that what they're meaning by prioritize is literally just that? It's just that's what you look to first?
Yeah, I think so.
Before you look to the TI?
Yeah.
Yeah, seems like it.
Okay. So Joyce, with you, since you are relating to that, then I'm curious then, what is it that makes you a TI savior?
I think I might look to my TI first. So what I do is I'm very aware of when I'm listening to something and it's incongruent to the logic in my head. So I'm like, there's a lot of times when someone says something and I'm like, oh, it's like a flat earth syndrome. It's like they have a belief that is so illogical that it's almost like it's a flat earth statement. Like, I believe in flat earth. But then it's like so then I logically like am not buying it, and it kind of like hurts my TI. But at the end of the day, if someone values something radically different than me, I might numb out my TI for their sake. And I think it's like maybe a female thing, because like females are maybe raised to care for the tribe and nurture the tribe. So it's confusing to be a TI savior.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so that's interesting. I do, at least in the subculture I was raised in, that's certainly true. That I do believe that I have feminine FE as a true savior. It's not just something that I have learned to do, but that it very much was, it was asked of me, not in a verbal way, but that's what the environment wanted from me. And so that's how I showed up. And I know Claire and I have had this conversation before. And how do you see that for yourself, Claire?
Being asked of it.
Well, I'm not in a literal way. In a like your culture, your environment is that's what they're wanting from you is the feminine FE.
Yes, and that makes sense because with FE we pick up on that so quickly, so we're very in tune with what the culture is wanting, and we can adjust to that. I even feel like I've done that with other functions sometimes. Like if the culture values another function, I might try to emulate that a little bit. So yes, in a culture that values feminine FE, and then I'm already bent that way, then that's easier to do, I guess.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel the reverse. Like FE was definitely not, feminine FE was definitely not valued in me. So I would pick up on the signals. No one would have to say a word. I just knew I'm blast play savior, feminine FE, feminine NI at the front. I could easily see that me just being me was not what people wanted growing up. So I had to learn, I can't do these things that are getting me all of this hate. I have to stop doing that somehow and just internalize all that. So I quickly learned, just be quiet, just watch people and, don't talk so much because it gets you hate. So just stop doing that.
Yeah, because that's your extroverted functions.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're even comfortable going into more of that, Kevin. I totally understand if not, but I am curious about what kind of things, what kind of traits coming along with feminine FE would get hate.
Well, I was raised in a very fundamentalist Christian cult, and my dad was he wasn't actually big on that cult. It was my mom's thing, and he just kind of went along with it. But he was very narcissistic and wanted me to be basically a copy of him and to worship him. And I wasn't. I mean, that wasn't who I was, and I wasn't going to treat him that way. So I think his mental tools to get me to do that were just be mean and, just not be nice to me and try to get me to be who he wanted me to be. And clearly he had some archetype of, masculine, aggressive. Right. I wasn't that, I wasn't ever going to be that. So it was like, okay, me just being me is not pleasing to him. And I want my dad to love me and be kind to me. So I need to just be quiet and do the things he wants me to do and try my best, even if I don't really want to do those things. And over time, I just developed, extreme social anxiety, because it's like I can't do the things I'm wired, I guess, to do. So I just, the archetype I aimed at was just quiet, strong, silent type, just, I don't know. So.
Yeah, but it does seem like it could be Effie that's picking up on that in him.
Yeah.
Right. Like, these are his values. I'm picking up on his values.
Yeah.
And then just trying to adjust your behavior.
Yeah. It's really like I just turned off the extroverted part of the FE and just observe, pick up values, and then don't extrovert.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, okay. Thank you for saying all that, because that is so insightful. Okay. Just a little follow-up on that. What you mentioned, the strong silent type, and I would guess that's also I see that in the broader culture of that being an archetype that men are encouraged towards. But was that something also in your specific subculture that was encouraged, or even in your family particularly?
It was something that I guess I saw as acceptable and achievable, probably. It's like, I can do that. I can stand back and be quiet, and that was something I could do easily. Just keep my mouth shut. But it was more acceptable to the tribe, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
well, I would guess that FE also played a big part in that, especially if you're testing, does this get a good reception? Does this get a good reception? And then you find something that gets a better reception than what you've had before, and that's what you stick with.
The NI too. It's like I'm trying to get rid of the chaos, narrow down, avoid, stuff in the future so it's like, I'm going to do this. And, over time I just learned, I'm constantly trying to avoid chaos. So I'm sure I did it as a kid as well. I just didn't have the tools of to talk about it or think about it. But,
yeah.
That's a good point about the NI being part of that.
Yeah. Because I'm picking up the values, and then I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to avoid all this hate and just get through life and with the least amount of, tribe hate.
Yeah. Because as SI instead of NI, I think I still picked up on those cultural values, but it was temporary. And then I would repeat, the next week.
Oh, wow.
And I think that might be why I never thought about that until you said that. But Karen, I've told you I saw TI a lot as a kid, and my parents said I was argumentative, and so I think TI kind of kept coming up because I didn't have the NI, to say, Claire, remember this happened before. I don't know exactly how NI works, but to see into the future that, like, if I keep doing that, their values are such that I shouldn't show TI much, but I forgot that. And so I showed it again, and then got more hate, and then readjusted, I think that probably did happen.
That's interesting. For me as a TI savior, so what happened is I when I'm having a conflict with someone, I learned really quickly to not argue with them, because I was like, in the long run, people don't really change their opinion anyway. So if I were to argue with them, I'd be arguing with a wall. And how productive is it to, like, argue with a wall? Not really productive. So I might as well just give up the TI and appease like that person there, because unless they're like primed to maybe consider a new opinion, which will happen in its own time, the best you can do is like plant a seed at that moment, but you cannot completely change their opinion. So I might as well just keep my TI to myself, because I'm sleep first and I don't have the energy to pursue arguments that aren't fruitful. So I'm like, I'm just going to be tired after this. And I'm like, so I might as well just be FFE. So I might identify more with FE, because I learned that TI doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, it's no wonder with you, Joyce. Your FE comes out so strongly as well. I mean, you use it as such a strength, and also, but that TI. I mean, when I've watched your videos, and even when I've chatted with you in the past, like your TI is also clearly a savior, and you are you're able to pull from both of them so beautifully. And I think that is, perhaps it can be the gift to maybe what has felt like a curse, to have this, to have been born with this savior that does not line up with what most of the cultures you come across are going to want from you. And but that it allows you early in life to grow a muscle that otherwise you wouldn't have gotten to later.
Yeah.
So
your FE is dynamite, Karen. I felt a warm presence like from what you just said, and just you exude it, and I really felt your comment, so thanks.
thank you. But I don't know if you feel like that too, Kevin, like there has been a blessing that's come along with that struggle for you.
I guess so, because I do feel that they're balanced. I just need to start working on the FE side of things more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice that I've been focused on the TI my whole life.
Yeah.
So I've been putting all that, extra reps into, working that. It's nice that they're balanced, but I feel like, this is like the FE thing is the thing I should be really good at, and I've like not put any effort into that. So I feel at least it's a savior, so I should be able to put effort into it and not have any trouble. But it's hard to do, because I've had this social anxiety my whole life, and it's like I identified with it so long that I'm trying to get over that. It's like I can see my brain putting up roadblocks when I want to extrovert. It's like, don't extrovert because that's going to get you hate. So it's like my brain is like throwing up all these roadblocks. So I'm having to spot them and to say, just forget about that. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a struggle. So
Yeah.
I'm constantly fighting against that. So
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. It's kind of like one of the guests on my show before talked about how they're left-handed, but then their grandfather made them write with their right hand their whole life. And now when they try to write with their left hand, it's awkward because they forgot how to use their savior hand. And it's interesting. Yeah, it seems like, Kevin, you're talking about that right now.
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, my mom went through the same thing. She was left-handed, and they hit her with a ruler in school. So she's right-handed now, but I'm actually left-handed. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it makes so much sense to me why that conflict could lead to social anxiety, or at least contribute to it.
It all made sense. Yeah. When I
Mm-hmm.
took it in light of that, it's like, oh, okay, I'm Savior FE, but yeah.
Right. Well, and hopefully, I know it's not an easy thing to undo, but hopefully that information helps bring some release to that as well.
Finding out, yeah, it was huge. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this thing that it feels like a demon to me. It's like the biggest pain in my ass, this FE. It's like, oh, it's a savior. I don't have to view it in those negative terms anymore. I need to start embracing it. Yeah, it was like, it was kind of nice to realize. It's like, oh, okay, let me try to change my view of it.
You got that missing information.
Yeah.
Feels wonderful.
It's very nice, actually. Yeah, definitely.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many great insights here. Okay. Well, I mean, we can, if you all have anything more to say on the topic of gender with those decider functions, then please do. And if not, then we can look to some of the questions we got from the community. Yeah, you all good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. All right, so let's see. We have, okay, question here. For someone who would be trying to type you, how would this person see if your most activated function is FE or TI? Bring concrete examples.
Yeah, right. Concrete examples. I'm not bringing. No.
Here, it's your game.
Does anyone want to start?
I already brought one. That's all I got, right?
You got a concrete example? Awesome.
The parenting one. That was my example. No. Yeah. I don't know. I really struggled with that when I was typed. Remember, Karen, I thought for the longest time maybe I was sleep blast. So I was actually TI first. It feels so much more real to me than FE. But for us, FE isn't isn't more activated, right?
No, it isn't. We have that demon masculine TI double activated, and it being the identity function as well, it makes sense. It's a masculine identity function. It makes sense why you would identify with that function.
Yeah, it sure felt like sleep blast, and sometimes I still feel that way. I've kind of been waiting for them to type people that are sleep blast consume play, because I feel like I'll see a difference then. But I don't know, that's really hard to see. So to, like, if you were to be typing someone that had this setup, how would you see it? I don't know. I mean, I guess the math should add up to feeler, feeling, overthinking. But then I don't know.
It's hard. It is a hard setup.
Yeah. I did think I was a feeler before getting typed. And I think a lot of the community did. But I thought it was FI because I was seeing identity and feeling like I was self over tribe. So it looked like FI to me. But this makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. The only example I can think of is what I was saying with like parenting or other things like that in my life, where like I know what I believe and what I think about my philosophies kind of about how I want to conduct my life. But if I'm aware that someone else has a different value, then I will push that down. But it seems like you're saying you would too, Joyce. So that might not be telling of an FE savior, you know?
Yeah, it's like an FE woman tell, maybe.
Yeah, right. You can see it, I don't know. These double deciders are really hard.
It's very hard,
Yeah.
I could say a couple of things, I guess. You would almost have to be inside my brain to see what's happening to be able to see the FE over the TI. It's like, but I know that when I see people crapping on tribe values, I'm very triggered. But I don't push and I don't say anything. But in my head, and I'm like, that person is doing this thing that they shouldn't be doing, and it's bugging me. But I don't do anything about it. But they'd have to be able to see that happening. So, like, for example, people that are tardy, late to things all the time. I'm never late. It's like if I'm late, there's something drastic that happened. When constantly people are, showing up late, like if you're in a class at school or whatever, coming in late and they're, oh, I'm sorry, every single time. And it's like, they're not sorry and they're not making any changes to not do that anymore. that kind of stuff drives me nuts. So if I'm
Yeah.
talking about it, you would see, oh, he's really bothered by that sort of thing. He must be FE, I guess. I don't know. But that's one example. But all that kind of stuff drives me nuts when I see people not, valuing the tribe values, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Does that stuff bother you guys at all or no?
It does, like when people are late, or like when people don't care about other people, they say rude things. So sometimes I'm the one to also say something overly rude too. But it's because sometimes with TI Savior, like I'll notice a truth, and sometimes I'm like, why? Like I normally sugarcoat things, but like when I think that they should be able to take it, I'll also just say it as it is.
I like that. They should be able to take it. I like that.
But on average, I tend to like tenderly, let that in. But I guess I get offended when people put. It's weird, as a self above tribe like TI. I don't like it when people put themselves above the tribe because of my FE. Because I'm like, why are you putting your own self above other people's values? It's like ruining the group atmosphere. Like a concrete example is like when my family members they fight with each other and they don't make up, like it distresses me. I'm like, guys, you have to make up. Like it's like, I don't like this air. But they don't have FE, and so they just exist with that like putrid lack of harmony. And I'm like, it's so putrid. Like, you guys, this is unacceptable, inappropriate. You guys, there has to be something here. Like, you guys work it out some way. But like, so I want relationships to like get along. I want everyone to get along. And when people are like late or something and they don't get along as well, it like hurts. And I guess so do people see me as a TI savior or an FE savior? It's really weird. So like what Antonia Dodge told me before was that like people, they are easy to manipulate, but it's not like you want to manipulate them. It's just you notice their responses to you are so different in different scenarios. Like I went to an MBTI meetup this one time, and I was talking about theory, and then I went really deep into the theory, and I was like, okay, so this is like an interesting tidbit about MBTI. And I'm like, I used to think I was a type 5 Enneagram, because I was like, maybe that's possible. I've been through every single Enneagram. I still can't know. And so they're like, you're an INTP because you're type 5 Enneagram and you love theory. And then you're like, theorist plus Enneagram 5 equals INTP.
Right.
But with my YouTube channel, what has happened is I'll have friends that I made from my YouTube channel, and then they'll message me privately. They're like, are you sure you're not an ENFJ? It's okay, you can tell me. And I'm like, guys, this is just two different me's in two different times.
Yeah.
And people just only react off of what they see.
Right. It's so interesting that you bring up Enneagram, Joyce, because when you were talking about how how putrid it is to have people have these conflicts and it just to be in the air and to not resolve it. And I was wondering if you really are Enneagram 9, if that is bringing out that it's just that strong resistance to being present with conflict. And I love thinking about the way that Enneagram overlays with the cognitive functions. And so it would make sense to me, let's say that just theoretically that you are Enneagram 9, why the FE would be so prominent in you, and you would even be willing to set aside your masculine TI for that FE. And for me, it makes sense why, being Enneagram 2, the FE comes out pretty strongly when I'm interacting with people, to where I'm sure that many people would want to type me as FE lead because of how much FE they see when I'm interacting with people, especially if you're typing through MBTI and not objective personality. So anyway, that's just another layer, and it's a total bunny trail. But I think that there could be some informing of Enneagram into the conversation that we're having, and And I even think, Claire, with the way I last understood you to type yourself, that could be why the TI is coming out more strongly too.
I've always tested as a 1,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the TI is part of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, I think I don't know, the way I've made sense of it is that it's the SITI sleep, because that to me feels like what the internal critic is described as. So
yes.
It may just be coming through a different way because of the SI, but that I'm not sure. But yes, I think the death labor things differently.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I originally typed as a type 1 too, but I think that people were like, no, you're not a type 1. And then I was like, okay. And then I tried on every type. And so it's interesting. The type 6 is what people tend to land me the most on. Type 9, some people also talk about too. Type 6 is strongly linked to observer freakouts. So I think a lot of double deciders might type as type 6, like after a while, because it's all about like freaking out because you don't trust things. And so it's very single observer Enneagram type 6.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know
Do you have anything on Enneagram, Kevin? I don't know if this is something.
No, I haven't put any time into learning it yet.
Okay.
I was too into the OPS.
Of course. All in on one thing. That's eventually. Your IJ box. Yeah. It's my IJ box right now too.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I was thinking about that question, and let me see. I put a few notes down here because I think it is a good question. It's hard. It is really hard when you're trying to type someone with that. So I was thinking of, I mean, instead of sensory examples, because even in my trying to process it, I don't come up with sensory examples. It's such a task for me to come up with sensory examples. So I was just thinking, as far as just, some silly blaster tips on that is that if you see a female and you're seeing a lot of FE, don't trust it. I mean, don't trust it as far as like, oh, that must mean she's Savior FE. Conversely, if you're seeing a male and you're seeing the TI, don't trust it. If you're seeing the opposite, if you're seeing a lot of TI in a female, that could inform you that possibly that is her savior. Same thing with a male. If you're actually seeing the FE, that could inform you that, oh, okay, if I'm seeing it this clearly, it probably is there. But I don't know that that's not like a canonical way to type in OP, but just as far as like what information to trust and what to not trust when you're taking it in. And then I was also thinking about age. I mean, age always should be taken into consideration, but I was thinking how when I was in college and really up until around 30, it wouldn't have been any contest for me where in interacting with me, or even you see me like interacting in Facebook group or whatever, there would not have been any contest because I was so shy, so self-conscious about expressing my own opinions, and in many ways didn't even have my own opinions. Then I started in my 20s and more privately started to exercise that TI, and then hitting around 30, it came out much more strongly to where there are some times where a person could wonder. Perhaps most of the time not, but a person could wonder at this age. I'm getting close to 40 now. So I think that age is just something to take into consideration. When you're looking at the person and you're watching them and there is a point in time where it's appropriate to express an opinion and instead they defer or they skirt around it, then that is a good sign. Or even things like, what was I thinking of? Oh, I guess I did kind of come up with sensory examples. Um, oh, there's one more thing. Wait, I think I may have had it here. Oh, I think now this probably does not go across the spectrum, but for me with feminine FE, it was a habit I felt self-conscious about taking up space in conversation. And so I would say a little bit, and then I would bounce the conversation right back to the other person. And so maybe Joyce, maybe you relate to that, or maybe you don't, but I noticed that DI saviors tend to have a lot more comfort just having the floor for a while, and feminine FE tends to have a little bit of that trait of, okay, well, let's talk about you now. So even just at this very moment, all right, let's talk about you all.
Yeah, I realized that. I was like, when is Karen going to share her? I'm like, you're just deferring to other people because Effie.
That's good.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. I'll just say that regarding the answer to that question, I think those are hard to spot, and yeah.
It's difficult. Like, how I would answer that is like, I actually have difficulty taking up space. It's also like a female thing too. Like when with Type Talks, I don't even say my own name when I introduce myself. Like, so I've done like 50 plus episodes. That's like 50 hours worth of episodes. I have not said my name yet.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, I don't even feel permission, like, okay with talking about like little things about myself, like my name. But there are times where my savior TI just come out. Like if we're talking about like an important issue, like a Bernie Sanders type of issue, like you have to address this. Or I'll have my soapbox and I'll go like, okay, for 10 minutes, you guys need to hear my TI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just really particular issues that come up, and then you'll take the floor. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, anything else on that subject or that question? Any other thoughts? Okay. All right. Well, let's see. This next question. We talked. Oh. Well, I guess we touched on this a little bit, but as a double decider, FE and TI are in the middle and are supposed to be quite balanced, and we're talking about that right now. Yourself, how do you see or feel that it is quite balanced?
You want me to say something here? One of the things that I noticed in the Facebook group, a lot of people talk about, there's like this obligation to the tribe for DE saviors. And that was one of the things I don't relate to, the obligation part of it. It's like, I'll see both sides of it. Like, do I want to do this thing that the tribe would like me to do something with them or whatever, or for them? Is this something I want to do? I'll check my reasons. And if I'm going to get something out of it, if I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do this because I'll benefit in some way, okay, I'll do it. But so I'm always checking me before I actually commit to doing something. It's like, do I want to do this? Maybe I don't, and I won't do it. But I definitely see the back and forth all the time in myself.
I'm the opposite. I actually do feel it as an obligation. So female thing probably. Like I'm like, it's important to consider the tribe. It's an obligation. And I do know my reasons. Like I'm conscious of them. But my default obligation is to other people. Yeah.
That's hard. I see a lot of back and forth. I feel like I flip-flop between those within seconds all day.
Yeah.
And that was hard to see at first. I felt like I could even be a decider because that was what I saw so much. What I didn't see were the other
right.
axis.
Right.
I wasn't doing that very well. But yeah, I kind of feel like I live my day between F and T. Just flip flop back and forth.
Mm-hmm. And Claire, when you saw yourself as a decider, you were thinking you had lead FI, right? Or did
Well,
you ever
for a
consider lead
while.
TI?
For a while, no, I never
Okay.
considered lead TI.
Okay.
I pretty much feel like I'm a feeler,
Mhm.
but I couldn't see FE as top, and yeah, I just felt like I had people issues. But I think that's just what I see.
I felt that way too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kevin, with your stack, those people issues. Well, I'm thinking now, no, though you
I
had
think the
typed
people
yourself as
issues.
an IP, correct?
Yeah, TI,
Yeah.
a jumper. Yeah, TI,
Yeah.
NI.
Yeah.
But
Which,
my people issues were me denying my FE. I think like
yeah.
I could see I was always deferring to the TI, and I could always see that FE like bugging me, and I was denying it. So I thought it has to be this demon. It's always like bugging me, like do this thing. You know, you're always just doing the TI. So it was like I must be TI lead.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And yeah, that's interesting because you're the EJ version of the IJ,
I know.
whereas with Claire and I, we're the more IP version, and so is Joyce. So yeah, my decider issues, at least at this stage in life, feel much more IP like than EJ like. But earlier, high school and college age, it would have been more EJ decider issues. So yeah. Okay, so let's see. This is okay. I'd particularly like to know how you set boundaries and how you say no to the tribe.
I leave the
This
room.
came from a lead TI.
Someone else go.
Yeah, did you hear that? I leave the room. I don't like to say no. I like to just go away.
It's a boundary.
Play last.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a boundary though.
Yeah.
So for me, it has been a growth process for me to start to voice my boundaries. And so I've been working on that about the last 10 years or so, because I was finding in relationship that I wouldn't speak up about a problem, but it's not like it would go away. I still would have this tension inside of me, and I would, it would happen again. I'd stuff it. I'd happen again. I'd stuff it. And then I got to a point of no return where when I blew up, and whatever that looked like, it wasn't like a angry, raging, I'm slamming the door and walking out. It was more of just like, I have decided I'm done. And it was a point of no return for me, like to return back to a place of openness to that person. It's not like it was impossible, but it would have been challenging to have done that. And so I just was seeing this pattern in myself, and how it wasn't helpful to my relationships. And it was, of course, incredibly hurtful to the other person when they have no awareness that I am having a problem. And so it's been part of my work to speak up early when there's a problem, and to express it, because it just is like a release valve to the issue. It's putting the problem between me and the other person, rather than it being just me holding it. So it can become either we're both working on this, or we're just both aware of this is why there's relationship tension going on. We both know why. And so it's it's a long process. It's a very long process to become more healthy in that way. And yet, so speaking up early is really just the main thing I do. And I think when you speak up early, it's a lot easier to address it with kindness. And it's a lot easier to do the double deciding there, because you don't have so much built up, and that is rushing out as soon as you express just something little about it.
Yeah, and that's where we differ a little bit. So for me, I do have a hard time saying no generally, but where the difference is I don't feel like I have permission to be resentful of the other person or to bottle up feelings unless I communicate to that person my own self. So I think the difference is I'm aware of myself because my TI makes me more aware of myself. And so I don't allow myself to feel negativity towards someone unless they know about it. So I'm like, if I am resenting you, I will tell you because I don't think it's fair because my TI decides what is fair and not. And then I need to tell you in order for me to be allowed to like FE be in my emotions. And then, because I don't, like, I like things to be like logical enough that it doesn't like I don't have emotional volcanoes, I guess that's what I'm saying. So like I'm kind of like yeah, a little bit chilled, you know.
Wow.
Great.
Tell me your secrets.
Very good.
Yeah.
I struggle setting boundaries. I'm just now realizing since I got into OPS and typology and stuff that that's like a thing. I didn't even know. I have these boundaries in my head that I think people should be observing and they don't. And then I get mad that they don't. I'm just like, it's obvious you should know this. So now I'm realizing, oh crap, I should have been setting these boundaries myself. And I never did. So I'm learning here, this is something I need to start doing for sure.
Oh, that is so different than me.
Yeah, I know exactly where the boundaries are and should be, and people cross them, and I'm like, "What's the matter with you? How could you be so stupid?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. So you guys are more actually like you expect people to follow through with the FE boundary more than I do. I'm more of I have to explicitly tell them in case they have weak FE, so I'm like, okay, I assume that they might have weak FE, whereas you guys assume that they all have savior FE without knowing it.
And that's terrible.
Probably.
Yeah, I definitely do that. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good tell for if it's savior or demon, maybe.
If we're assuming, we finally found something
on other people. Yeah.
Like, why do we do that? Why are we assuming everyone has FE? I didn't even know it was a thing, but I definitely was doing it. I think everyone should have it, obviously.
Well, because if it's obvious and easy to you to tune in to be paying attention to what is mattering to other people and what their reactions are when this is done and that's done, then it makes sense why that would be the assumption that other people are doing that as well. Yeah. Whereas with Joyce, well, although you have that skill to do that, certainly I see it. So that's really interesting though that that you're taking in that responsibility for the communication and not allowing yourself to hold anything unless you've communicated it.
Yeah. I don't start with the same assumption that you guys have. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really insightful.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Let me just check on how much time we have before. Oh my goodness. Well, okay. Do you all want to do one more question or should we wrap it up?
I'm fine.
Of course, we got started. We didn't start right at the time, so we didn't start recording right at that time. So, all right, let's do one more. All right, so this was an interesting question, and maybe you all know how to answer it better than I did. I want to know how you guys, as Savior Feminine DE, although that doesn't apply to Joyce here, experience your demon DI identity that is built on reasons.
That is hard to put into words. But the more I learn about FI and how their identity is built on values, I know I'm not that. I don't know.
Yeah, it was an interesting question, but I still am sitting with it.
I mean, I noticed that when, for example, when people are brainstorming and I go into my TI and I come up with some idea and give it to them. That's me. That's part of me.
Mm-hmm.
And when they shit on it, I feel like they're doing that directly to me. Like I'm not worthy. I'm garbage. And it's like I took all this effort to come up with this wonderful idea, and you guys just, toss it away. It's like you don't like me. It's like there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, that's good. That's probably how I would. Yes, you're right, Kevin. Like by feeling the hurt when someone doesn't think that your ideas that you worked very hard on are worthy.
Yeah.
Right. Joyce, do you relate to that at all, or is it different for you?
For me, I can take it really personally when like someone gives me constructive criticism with my ideas, and it's like I realized with my YouTube channel, like for example, concrete examples, I'm leveling up my double activated SC right now. So I realized that a lot of people who write constructive criticism are like TE users with their TE tips, and it really hurts. Like I'll never get used to it. Like it's because like my TI is like so close to me, and I'm like, but you need to consider all of these TI things to be able to critique my idea. So it's almost like you have to go through my entire 50-layered TI process to have the permission to critique it. Otherwise, it hurts because then you're dismissing the other 49 layers that you did not consider. So yeah.
Yeah. It seemed I have not gotten used to that either. It seems like something like since the TE ideas can just be thrown out so loosely that the idea is just to take it loosely, like to not really, and not as though not taking it seriously, but like if oh gosh, it's hard for me to express what I'm trying to say about this subject. I'll just leave it at that anyway.
It's like by them only critiquing one layer of logic, they're disrespecting the other 49 layers of logic. And I feel it on a personal level. My TI is like, what about those 49 layers that you disrespected by not critiquing those too? Right. That's why TE clash.
By not taking the time to understand all of that. I know that is one of the hardest things is just like wanting, like for me, wanting to be we can have a conversation with conflict in it, and that's in many ways I enjoy conflict because oftentimes it means that something real is happening in the relationship, but it really is important for me with that TI, and maybe because it's a demon, but if Joyce is saying differently, then maybe it's just having the TI as the identity piece, that it's important to be sought to be understood of why. And here's an interesting piece. I don't know if you all have this, but like apologizing is a difficult thing for me to do. And I've come, my husband and I have had conversations about this, and I've conversed with other people about what's going on with that. And really what I have found is it's not because I don't see any problems. I mean, I definitely see plenty of issues with me and my behavior. It's because I want to be understood of where that behavior came from, so that the nuances of what I'm apologizing for are clear. And instead of just a really blanket, I'm sorry, because the reasons of why I did what I did are they need to be understood in order for you to understand what I'm apologizing for. So I don't know, do any of you, I'm curious if that is a masculine TI thing or not, to have the challenge with apologizing, but it's because of like, well, we got to really have a detailed conversation about what the apology is.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Interesting.
And that's a lot of work that I don't really want to do. Go through all that. It's like,
it's not interesting to you to do that. Okay. It is to me.
It's just so much stress. It's stress that I don't really want. It's chaos. It's like, so, but I see the need to do it, but it stresses me out so much. It's like, I don't want to do that, but I know I have to. But.
Yeah. So the same thing with TE, well, I'll just say, like, my husband is on the TFI axis, that he's FI savior, but he is much more quick to apologize. And I think for him, that the reasons are not so personal. And so he like, I'm sorry, and maybe I don't understand exactly what he's sorry for, but it doesn't matter so much to him. He's just like ready to move along. And so I think that that's something I'm learning and growing in, is not being so attached to my reasons, and therefore like holding on to that apology until all the reasons are understood, and just being okay with being misunderstood about why I did what I did, or all of the background that was going on to it. So it's just, I learn a lot from him, and I learn a lot from other people in that regard, that hold it more loosely. So, all right. Well, we had some great questions, and maybe they can be saved for another time, or another group of people that get together and have somewhat of the same situation. But I would say, for anyone who got this far in the video, thank you. If you're watching this and you got this far, thank you for sticking with us in our conversation. I hope that it was helpful in some way to you. And if you are one of these females with a masculine TI savior, or males with feminine FE savior, and you have an interest in being a part of a conversation with your cohort about what it's been like to have that function growing up or as an adult, I think that would be so valuable. I know I would want to watch it. And so if you have an interest, I mean, I'm not going to be in these conversations, but please do make it happen. I would certainly watch it. So anyway, do y'all have any parting words before we sign off?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we've covered everything we can squeeze in here.
Yeah.
It's been
Well,
great
thank you.
chatting with you.
I've learned a lot, and since this has been stewing in my mind for a while, I'm so glad to have a chance to talk a little bit about it. So thank you for being here and opening up about your lives.